This is not a story about a king or a millionaire. This is a story about a normal person, just like you or me, who believe that small wrong actions don't matter. Until life decided to remind him, meet Alex. He was smart, ambitious, and worked in a busy city office. From the outside, he was a regular guy, but inside, Alex had a simple philosophy: look out for number one. He wasn't a villain from a movie, he was just selfish. He thought everyone else was the same, secretly playing the game for their own benefit. Lying was just a tool. If a small fib could get him out of a tight spot or make him look good, what was the harm? He'd tell his boss he was almost done with a report when he hadn't even started. He'd tell a friend he was stuck in traffic when he was still at home on the couch. Using people? That was just networking, he'd tell himself. He'd be incredibly friendly to a coworker when he needed a favor, then completely ignore their calls a week later. He saw life as a ladder, and if he had to step on a few fingers to climb it, so be it. Everyone does it, he'd mumble to himself. What's the big deal? He was convinced that this was just how the world worked, and he was just playing along. His days were a quiet collection of these small wrongdoings. One morning, on his way to work, an old man with tired eyes and worn-out clothes asked him for a few coins for a cup of tea. Alex just glanced at him, pretended he didn't hear, and walked faster, thinking he'll probably just spend it on something else anyway. He didn't feel a thing. It was just another person, another inconvenience. At the office that day, his junior colleague, a bright young woman named Sarah, came up with a brilliant idea for a marketing campaign. During the team meeting, when the manager asked who came up with the concept, Alex spoke up before Sarah could. He presented her idea as his own, adding a few minor details to make it sound like he'd been working on it for weeks. The manager was impressed. Alex got a bonus, Sarah got nothing. He saw the disappointment in her eyes, but he quickly looked away. It's a tough world, he justified. She needs to learn to speak up. Later that week, he was dealing with a client who wasn't very familiar with their products. Alex saw an opportunity. He sold the client a premium package they didn't need, adding on services that were completely useless to them. He pocketed a hefty commission. The client trusted him completely, thanking him for his expert advice. Alex just smiled and shook his hand, feeling a rush of clever satisfaction. Promises were another casual casualty in his life. He promised to help his friend move over the weekend, but when a better offer for a party came up, he simply texted, "Sorry, something came up," with no further explanation. He believed karma was just a fairy tale, a story people told themselves to feel better about being weak. He was strong, he was a survivor, and his actions had no consequences beyond the immediate gain. Then, one day, the world he had so carefully built for himself began to crumble. It didn't happen with a loud bang, but with a quiet, devastating email. Due to company restructuring, his position was being eliminated. He was laid off, effective immediately. Suddenly, the smart, ambitious man was just another unemployed person in a big city. Panic set in, his savings wouldn't last forever, and the bills were piling up. He needed help, and he needed it urgently. His first call was to a former colleague, one he had used for a project and then ghosted. The colleague listened politely and said, "I'll see what I can do," but Alex knew from his tone that he would never hear from him again. He then reached out to an old contact he had cheated in a business deal years ago, hoping time had softened the memory. The contact didn't even pick up his call. Desperate, he called the friend he had ditched on moving day. "Sorry, I'm really busy right now," the friend said coldly and hung up. One by one, every door he knocked on was a door he had once slammed shut on someone else. The friendly smiles he had received when he was useful were now replaced with cold indifference. He was utterly alone, surrounded by the echoes of his own broken promises and selfish acts. The world he thought he was so cleverly manipulating had simply turned its back on him. Feeling defeated, he wandered the city streets, the weight of his failure pressing down on him. As he sat on a park bench, his head in his hands, a figure approached. He looked up and saw the same old man he had ignored weeks ago. The man's clothes were still worn, his eyes still tired, but he held out a small paper bag. "You look like you're having a hard day," the old man said, his voice gentle. "Here, I bought an extra sandwich." Alex was speechless. This man, who had nothing, was offering him a part of his meal. He, who had everything and gave nothing, was now receiving kindness from the one person he had treated as invisible. In that moment, a wave of shame washed over him, so powerful it felt like a physical blow. He finally understood life wasn't punishing him. Karma wasn't some cosmic force seeking revenge. Life was simply a mirror. It was reflecting his own actions back at him. The indifference he faced was the indifference he had shown. The isolation he felt was the isolation he had caused. The help he desperately needed and couldn't find was the help he had so easily denied. It was all him. His world was a perfect, painful reflection of his own soul. That sandwich from a stranger changed everything. Alex didn't have a sudden, dramatic transformation into a saint. The change was quiet, slow, and deliberate. He started with small things. He found a part-time job, and on his way home, he'd buy an extra meal and give it to someone on the street, without a word. He started volunteering at a local shelter on weekends. When he finally got a new job, he made a point to actively listen to his colleagues, to give credit where it was due, and to help anyone who was struggling, just as Sarah had. He called his old friend and apologized sincerely for bailing on him, not with an excuse, but with the truth. He started keeping his promises, no matter how small. There were no instant rewards. His life didn't magically get easier. He didn't win the lottery or get a huge promotion. But something else began to return, a sense of peace. He started sleeping better at night. The constant, low-level anxiety that used to hum beneath the surface of his ambition was gone. He was no longer looking over his shoulder. For the first time in a long time, he could look at himself in the mirror without flinching. He was building a new reflection, one of quiet kindness and integrity, one action at a time. Every action you take, big or small, returns to you. Sometimes silently, sometimes powerfully. Karma doesn't need time, it needs truth. And truth always finds its way back. If this story made you think, like the video, share it with someone who needs this reminder, and subscribe for more real-life stories. Thanks for watching.